If you're serious about growing your business, then what you do immediately after you launch your Facebook ads is just as important as the ads themselves. Most business owners make one of two mistakes. They either launch their ads and make 1,000 changes right away, changing everything all the time, always trying to get ahead, or they launch their ads, take their hands off the keyboard, and really never check their account again. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the 14 things that you must do immediately after you launch your Facebook ads to ensure you're driving the highest return on ad spend and ultimately scaling your ads every single day. What I have here first is our monthly tracker. This is taking all of our ad account data and all of our Shopify data side by side. The next piece we have is our monthly channel breakdown. So you can see here on this account that we're looking at, in our time working with this account, we took this from a sales brand of $100,000 all the way up to nearly $500,000 per month. I can get that pulse really quickly, right? Their Shopify data is indicating that last month they drove $491,000 in revenue. This month's not over, but we're going to beat last month by a large margin, becoming close to $1 million business per month. Previous months all year long were really nowhere near $250,000 plus. So we've nearly doubled this business already just working with this brand. Now the tactical portions of that we're going to get into, but what's important to mention with tracking is that I can see that in a quarter of a second. We also have weekly breakdowns so we could just see how we're pacing on a week to week. And then of course we have to have a daily breakdown, which is going to show us all of our data every single day, most important metrics only. We then here have all of our deep dives built into our tracking dashboard. This is something I would recommend. It takes a whole lot of time. And hint, some of these deep dives are going to be in numbers 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, which are going to help understand exactly what kind of levers we need to be pulling in the ad accounts. The second thing I would do, which is so critical and almost everyone forgets about, is in my ad account, I'd make sure that I have audience segments properly set up. For example, when I go into my ad account, I go to advertiser settings. Once I'm in advertiser settings, I would go down to audience segments and I'd make sure my engaged and my existing customers are properly defined. As we can see here, my existing customers have all my purchasers over all time. My engaged audiences have my Klaviyo subscribers, add to cart 90 days and visitors 30 days. That's what I recommend by default. And the key of this is that now when I go into my campaigns and I go to my breakdowns and I click audience segments, I'm actually going to be able to see new, existing, and engaged audiences broken down, how much we're spending on them per campaign or per account, which allows me to ensure that I'm not overspending on engaged and existing audiences. Who cares about tracking? Who cares about new and engaged audiences if you don't actually know what goal you need to hit? So my third most important thing that I would do immediately after I'm launching Facebook ads is make sure I actually know why my goal is my goal. I don't care what your cousin's friend got on Facebook ads in 2008. This is 2025 and beyond. This is a much different game. Your Facebook ads return on ad spend target should start at a break even. And if you want to make money on the first purchase, you should add a small percentage on top of your break even. What I do to calculate this, there's a lot of easy formulas to use. I made this return on ad spend calculator. It's 100% free. There's a link down in the description and you'll be sent this exact link to get to this calculator. What this does is you could insert your cost of goods as a percentage. So if you know that for every $100 you sell, it costs you $20 in goods to fulfill, put this at 20%. Your average ad spend per month, let's just say you're spending $70,000 per month. And then what it's going to do is right here in this break even return on ad spend bucket, it's going to show you what your break even is. And then what we can do is we could adjust our ROAS target to actually show us how much revenue we could drive for the business. And the one thing that this doesn't show you that you need to be mindful of is you are going to acquire customers faster than ever if you're closer to your break even target. Those customers are then going to come back and purchase from your brand as long as you're selling a good product over and over and over again. So there's a shift that needs to happen. You don't have to worry about the first customer acquisition as much and how much you're making on that first customer acquisition, but more so making sure that you're understanding that you are actually acquiring a customer, bringing them into your ecosystem, and that they are going to purchase again and again from you and become a cash cow. That's a key difference that I urge all business owners to actually understand. Thinking of Facebook here, we can hit a 1.25 return on ad spend. That would net us a profit contribution of only $2,800 if we spent $70,000, but we'd acquire a boatload of customers on that $70,000, which makes it all the more worth it. Because if we enter things like lifetime value, it's going to be a completely different equation and we're going to be able to forecast significantly increased profits on a long scale. Okay, now let's get into the tactical stuff here. Number 4, I want to talk about pausing losers. Losers in an ad account is a tough subject to generally talk about because most people actually define losers in a bunch of different ways. What I'm defining as a loser is a low spending ad and a low revenue driving ad. For example, if I'm going into any one of our ad accounts and I'm just looking at the last 30 days, so I'm going to take all my ads in this ad account over the last 30 days, I'm going to sort by amount spent, and I'm just going to scroll down to when we get to points where we don't really need these ads anymore. And what I'm looking for is any ad that's under my baseline return on ad spend and not spending a lot. And what I can see right here, this is a great example of an ad that needs to be paused, right? It has a 0.84 return on ad spend. It has only $470 in spend of a total of $282,000 in spend. There is no point in keeping this ad active. Keep in mind, if an ad is low spending but high return on ad spend, that doesn't mean it's a winner. It just means that it's a supportive ad. So we keep that active. On the other flip side, this is one of the most common questions I get. What do I do about an ad that's under my target return on ad spend, but spending a lot? Don't pause it down. Take this ad, for example. This is under our average by about 10%. So our average is 2. This is a 1.92 return on ad spend, and it has a boatload of spend. It is hogging a lot of spend. Facebook sees this ad in a positive light. So if I paused this ad, there's a good chance that my other ads that are driving, for example, 2.1, 2.05, 2.05, 2.36, it's a good chance that those ads actually die down once I pause this top performing high spending ad. And on that same note, the next thing we're doing after we're pausing our obvious losers is we are finding, locating, and scaling our obvious winners. Our obvious winners have high ad spend and high return on ad spend. What we're looking for is anything in the account that is an outlier in total ad spend and above our target return on ad spend. I don't care about those ads that have 10x return on ad spend with $8 of spend. Those are supportive. Those are bottom feeding. We don't care. What we care about are the big ticket spenders that have high ROAS. So in this account, it's so obvious. You're probably staring at it and you're saying, whoa, $81,997 on this one single ad at over a 2.06 return on ad spend. The target in this account, by the way, is 1.8. You might say, how? They have really good margins, but 1.8 is the target, which allows us to scale very aggressively. This client in particular makes money on the second, third, fourth, fifth purchase that the customer actually comes back to them because they sell a really good product. In this case, this is a very clear winner. So what we want to do with ads like this, ads that are clear winners, is we want to scale them. We're going to click the duplicate button here and we're going to scale them into our scale campaign. So remember, our scale campaign is at the top of the account. It's formerly known as an ASC campaign. It is a single campaign with a single ad set with all of our top ads, all of the true winners in the ad account that had high spend and high return on ad spend. We're taking that ad, we're duplicating it, we're running a second version of that ad. So you're gonna have 2 exact copies of the exact same ad running at the exact same time. We never pause anything that's actually working well, and we're graduating that into an 100% broad ASC campaign. Now, once you actually locate and scale that winner, the next immediate step, and I literally mean like you click the duplicate button and the next thing you do on your computer is you brief variations. So you need to go and you need to create new variations of your top performing ads. Whenever there's an ad that has high levels of spend, high purchases over your target return on ad spend, it's an opportunity for you to break this ad down and create as many variations as possible. Let's say this ad here was a top performing ad. Let's say this was the ad that was taking it to the moon. It had massively high spend and it was working super well. What we would do is we would take this exact ad and we would change core elements of the ad. Meaning we're not just going to tweak the shade of the background. We're not just going to change a filter on this ad. What we're doing is we're changing something fundamental about it. For example, we're going to change all of these hats to blue hats. We're going to change this person's arm to an arm that's wearing a different kind of a watch. We're going to change the entire background from like this scenic lake landscape to something maybe on the beach, or maybe something in a normal setting like a backyard or a hiking trail. We want to take core elements of the ad and create variations. To give you another example, let's say this ad by Pandora was a top performing ad. This one's even easier to make iterations of, and you should be getting enjoying this by now, because this is not making iterations in a sense of changing one little tiny thing. This is changing a core element of the ad, because you know that this style or this format, something is working well with this. This applies to both static images and videos. So for this ad, things that I would do is, first, we try to change the model out. We try to have the exact same pose with the exact same jewelry with a different model. Second thing we do is we take the same model and we would just swap out the jewelry, keep that same pose that she's currently in. Think through every single element that you can possibly change that is high value, right? We're not interested in moving the Pandora logo from the middle to the left. That's not going to do anything. Maybe we could zoom out a little bit on this. Maybe we could zoom further in a little bit on this. Those are big core changes to the ad style while still keeping the frame that we know worked very, very well. Once we have those winners established in the account, your team is already working on those creative variations. It's now time to do some ad platform work. What we're going to do in our ad platform is we are going to create a single interest ad set. This single interest ad set is going to live inside your prospecting CBO campaign. So your prospecting CBO campaign is the hub for all of your testing, for all of your new launches. Every time you launch creative, it goes into your prospecting CBO. You create a massive hyper competitive environment within your prospecting CBO. This does for you, and what this does for the algorithm is it allows you to minimize wasted spend. I have tutorials and videos on this that go for hours, but what I want to focus on here is number 7, which is making sure you are graduating your top winning ads into interest groups. At the same time, as I showed you before, as we're taking our top ads and we're scaling them into the ASC, which lives at the top of the account, we're also taking that same top ad and we're scaling them into single interest audiences. The key here is that the single interest audience is only getting winners, meaning the audience is being tested more closely to what is actually going to work in your account as a good representative of the whole. Interests are not a place that we're testing brand new creatives that we have no idea if they work or not. Because if we have a new creative that potentially works or does not work, and we have an interest that potentially works or does not work, then we have two conflicting variables. That's bad. We always want to have one core variable that we know that works, which in this case is the creative, and we want to have one variable that is the test, which is the interest in this case. The other super valuable piece of interest, which everyone seems to think are completely dead, is that interest audiences actually help expand your broad audiences. So what I mean by this is everyone will tell you broad. Broad is great. It works. But if you're not getting the target return on ad spend that you desire, then try interest audiences. And it doesn't even matter what they are. Just make sure they're single interest audiences. What you want to do is you want to take one single competitor or one single interest like fashion or like shoes or running or something like that. You want to use one at a time into your interest group, because if that audience works, your broad audience now has learned a lot from the interest, and your broad audience can go from being this big to this big. Even though the broad audience could technically hit everyone, it never does. It always is refined to a specific amount of people. You can now expand that by giving it more information and informing your pixel with more data sets. Number 8 is you need to identify top performing ad copy. Everyone overlooks this. Everyone just looks at the creatives, which are the most important part, but the ad copy is what takes good creatives and makes them great. So using the exact same ad account that we were just in before, you're going to click on your breakdowns and you're going to type in headlines and click headline. Clicking headline ad settings here. Once you select this, all your headlines that you're using for your ads are going to open up. And by the way, if you're not setting your ads up by using multiple headlines, this is your sign to do so. Headlines will be difference makers in your ad account and will actually create massive amounts of insight that could actually inform you on what ads to create in the future. For example, right here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different headlines that we're running, and all of these convert pretty well, but 2 of these convert very, very well. Specifically, this first headline here, which has spent $15,000 on this headline at a 2.24 return on ad spend versus a 2.06 for the rest of the ad. What that means to me is that we have one single headline that is driving a 10% increase in return on ad spend. Think about that impact. A 10% increase in return on ad spend. I know a lot of you out there that are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars every single month would kill for a 10% increase in your return on ad spend, let alone doing it with just changing and tweaking a headline. So you should be testing many different headlines. And then what I want you to do is once you test that headline, once you figure out what headline works the best, A, create more variations of those new headlines, and B, use that headline in your video hooks. This is really key. For example, if your headline says you deserve better, the next thing you want to do is in your next video, your next UGC video, your next founder video, whatever you're making, whatever videos you're delivering, you deserve better should be somewhere in that first 3 to 5 seconds of the video. Same thing for images. Plaster the headlines that work across your business. They are literally telling you what works through data in almost no other way that you can get this. Okay, now for the round of the highest impact that is going to take the most amount of work. This is the biggest pain in the you-know-what stuff that actually drives businesses forward. From my perspective, this is the difference between doing it on your own and hiring a pro agency to actually do it for you. I'm going to plug myself here. If you actually want to work with a professional agency, go to themoonlighters.com/apply to work with us, or click the link down in the description. We work with 7 and 8 figure e-commerce brands specifically. So if that's you, go down in the description. Worst case, you take a 15-minute call. Best case, you become one of the case studies like I'm showing you right now. So with that said, number 9, I want you to run a controlled scale test. Keep in mind at this point, this is not a day one thing to do. This is not you just launch your ads. This is the next thing you do 2 seconds later. This is now you have acquired data, whether that means 14 days, 30 days, 60 days of data, depending on how much you're spending, and you're going to run your very first controlled scale test. So the way you're going to run a controlled scale test is by throwing all the information you've ever heard about the learning phase completely out the window, because it is not real. The learning phase is a way to make sure that we don't overspend improperly and that we don't shut our ads down too quickly. In this case, we were using real data to actually indicate that we can scale our ad accounts. The first thing you're going to do before you do anything else is going back to the second thing that I told you is we're going to be checking our new audience return on ad spend, our new audience cost per acquisition. Go into your account, go to the campaign level and click breakdown and select audience segments. You might have to type it in. And once you get here, you're going to see your breakdowns between new, engaged, and existing audiences. You're going to go down to the bottom, at the very bottom here, and you're going to open this drop down. This drop down is going to show you new, existing, engaged audiences for your entire account and allow you to evaluate the return on ad spends per cohort. This is key. When we scale, we are scaling into the new audience. So if the new audience is not getting enough spend and or it's not getting a high return on ad spend, then you can't scale into it and you have to reevaluate the creative. You have to be measuring everything on new audience if you're trying to scale. So for this brand in particular, this is before they started to work with us. Their new audiences spent $64,000. Their return on ad spend at the time for new audience is 1.78. So we saw some opportunity here, and what we wanted to do and how we measure this is if we look at the last 30 days in this account, we went from that $70,000 to $256,000 at a 1.9 for new audiences. You might say, oh my gosh, that's nearly a 4x in ad spend. Yes, it is. It was a fantastic result, but we were only able to do that because we checked the new customer segment every single day. We were not just tracking the total, which is helpful, but we were tracking how is new customer impacted by our spend. So the way that you want to do a controlled scale test is you want to start by scaling your spend up on a given week by 20%. You want to evaluate the impact. I want to show you exactly what we did right here, week by week. We started working with this business on March 17th of 2025. They were spending around $19,000 to $20,000 a week every single week. Pretty solid, big business, not going to deny it. They had a 2 return on ad spend the week we started. Pretty stable from what they've always had. We go from 19,000 and we stay pretty steady. We can't really find anything. Then what we do is we find a piece of creative about 6 weeks into the relationship that can actually take this account to the next level, because we evaluated the new audience segments and we evaluated the new audience segments specific to a single ad. This ad in particular had showed signs of promise. So what we did is we took the account from $19,000 to $26,000. It's around a 30% increase in total spend. For us, that was very significant. We proved that over the course of a 2-week period, we could hold our return on ad spend, give or take 5 to 10%, and we could spend significantly more. We then pushed back down. So we didn't do anything. We just held down a little bit. And then we reevaluated the controlled scale test by going higher than 20%. We went over 40%. We went up from $16,000 to $30,000 in the course of 1 week. Then we took it to the next level. We went from 29 to 37. And then things get a little crazy. We went from $37,000 the week prior to $91,000 in spend at a stable return on ad spend of 2.06. We now are in a new range of return on ad spend. And this week's not even over yet, but we're looking to actually surpass the $80,000 that we did last week. This happened because we were not afraid of the learning phase. We were not thinking that we had to scale by 10% or 15% or whatever Facebook tells us these days. We literally doubled. right? We doubled in the course of 2 weeks. Any Facebook rep would tell you that we're crazy, and we are crazy. We got astronomically high numbers. This business, and specifically this business owner, is legitimately in a different position now because they have now $1 million per month business on their hands due to the changes that were made here. The 10th thing that I would do pretty immediately, we're talking at least 30 days after I run ads. And if you've been running ads for quite a while, then this is something you're going to want to do right now. You want to make sure you're not overspending on your retargeting and your retention-based audiences. So as long as you have your audience breakdown set up properly, if you scroll all the way to the right, you're going to see a frequency metric. This frequency metric is going to be a great indication as to whether you're overspending or underspending on your new, engaged, and existing audiences. So what we generally want to see here over a 30-day period, we want our engaged and existing audiences to be no more than 15 frequency. Now you could see on our engaged here, we're a little high. So this is an indication that we could actually pull back this engaged spend, right? We could throttle back. And the reason we pull this back is because we can probably get a similar revenue number, aka better return on ad spend, while spending a little bit less because this frequency is so high. People don't need to see ads this often. Now, what you want to be really, really careful about is when you have ridiculously high frequency numbers and your spend isn't even that high. So if you're under $30,000 in ad spend and your frequencies are like 15, 20, like wake up, like whoa. Reevaluate. We need to pull back spend on engage and existing. That might mean you need to wipe out some things out of your account, add some exclusions into your prospecting, and create clear swim lanes into your account so you have new, engaged, and existing audiences set up properly. Number 11 is perform a day of week analysis. So when you're running Facebook ads, when you're running Google ads, when you're running any ads at all, every single business has better performing days of the week, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, the weekends are better, whatever couple of days of the week, they're usually in chunks and they usually perform better or worse than other days. Just to give you an example, a business that sells more to other businesses rather than consumers is definitely going to do better Monday through Thursday than they are Friday, Saturday, Sunday when people are at home not thinking about business. So in your case, what I want you to do is go into your Shopify reports or into your Meta reports and pivot your data in Google Sheets to actually understand which days of the week perform better. The way that we do this in our trackers, and this is only available to our clients, is we have a custom report that automatically does this, where we have all of our breakdowns by Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and you could actually see on demand over the last 90 days, which our look back is right now, what our return on ad spends are per day. So we know for this business, we could throttle up Saturdays and Sundays, and as you can see by the spends, notice how we spent 81 grand on Sundays over the last 90 days versus everything else is in the 50s and 60s. That is a significant difference. We are actually throttling spend whenever it's better performing. The next thing I want you to do every single week, this is number 12, is I want you to be going into your actual ads and reading your comments. Go into your ads manager, either click on the previews of your ads or go into your Facebook inbox. And I literally want you to take the really annoying time to go to that Facebook post and read every single comment. Because when you start to read these comments, as we are right here, we literally get so much good information. And then we could actually curate our messages based on these comments. We could address problems that people have. We could actually talk or create ads specific to what these comments are about. Oh, and by the way, big hint, that's how we created that mega top winning ad that I showed you before. That ad that spent $80,000 over the course of 30 days, a single ad that spent 80K, was created because we found comments talking about a specific pain point. We addressed that pain point as a positive, and then it cranked and worked super, super well for us. Number 13, the 80-20 rule, my favorite rule, known as the Pareto Principle, and we're going to apply this to products specifically. What I want to make sure is that you're spending the majority of your cash in your ad account on the 20% of the products that drive 80% of the revenue for your business. If you don't know for sure which 20% of your products drive 80% of your revenue, go into your Shopify reports, pull it all, and run an 80-20 analysis. You will see very, very quickly, I almost guarantee if you're running 100 products, running 1,000 products, you have 20,000 products that, whether it's category or individual products, that 20% of the products drive 80% of the sales for your business. Now, there's a lot you can do with that information, but all I care about right now is that you're spending money on those top products. And number 14, by the way, there's a bonus number 15. Number 14, your age and gender analysis needs to be something you're on top of. So just like we did our analysis by day of week here, we also want to do age and gender analysis. Now I have these broken out in custom reports in my sheets. These are for all of our clients, but you could also just go into your ad account, you can click breakdown and you can type in age and you'll see there's an age and gender report. What I would generally recommend is just looking at this as a whole and then also looking at this per campaign. What you just want to make sure is you're not overspending in any places. This has been specifically a problem since the newest updates mid-April. We have seen many accounts start to overspend into older age groups. If this is happening to you, you're not alone. We've also seen some accounts that have just completely mismatched all their spending to previous historic spending. So you got to be really careful right now because the algorithm is changing so much. Little tweaks like this make a big difference. And the great bonus number 15, this list needs to be repeated. Simply put, if you just try to do this list one time and think that this one boost that you get from this list is going to save the day, yeah, it might save the next 2 weeks, it might save the next month, but it's not going to save you 180 days from now. Things change, algorithms change, creative changes. This is something that should be done constantly. In fact, so constantly that I'd recommend you do it every single month and schedule literally a full day of work as a media manager to do this entire list. It's critical. If you want to grow your ad account, if you actually care about the cash you're spending in your Facebook ads platform and your Google ads platform, or really any ad platform period, this list right here that we just broke down is critical to perform after and immediately after you start launching your ads. Now look, this is just a simple breakdown. This is a quick glimpse as to what it's like to actually run and optimize ads. If you want to see our full strategy structure, things that I kind of hinted at in this video, click the video right here where I break down everything under the sun when it comes to Facebook ads. And I hope you got a ton of value out of this video. If you did, let me know in the comments below. I'll see you all in the next one.